perspectives, and just the talk this morning alone was so impactful, and really seeing people dedicate their lives to Jesus or rededicate, and just knowing that we're here to honor you, Lord, and really take all the information in and really apply it to our lives. I just pray over these young women as they go into adulthood, just being strong Christian women that do everything in your name, Lord, and just be that shining light to others, to show them the way, that the only way is through Jesus. Lord, we just pray that you give Taylor and I the words, and the girls open their hearts and just hear our story and give them something to think about for themselves, so they can move on in their Christian walk and be guided mostly by you and your word, and then also just hearing our perspective on things. And we're just so grateful that you brought us here together in this way. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
And I'm also starting.
No, you don't have to start.
I put you to work yesterday.
That's okay. I'm alright with it.
It's my first conference, so I really leaned on, I keep calling you Taylor,
You do.
Mrs. Maynard. I have not known Taylor that long, but I feel like a good connection, like a friend, you know, so I just, seriously.
That's a deep friendship.
I mean, it's just really nice to connect with, so that's why I call you Taylor.
Well, I mean, we're
From
both,
Mrs.
so.
Yeah,
That's
Mrs.
how it works.
Maynard. But I leaned on her a lot yesterday to kind of show me how this is all working, since it's my first conference. And yeah, so I thank you a lot.
Do you want to start, or do you want me to start? Okay. So Coach Lauren and I came together because we were thinking about like how to be involved in the conference and what the Lord has placed on our hearts. And for us, we really recognize that you guys are going through a set of challenges that, I mean, neither one of us had in high school. I'm 26 and
I'm 40.
Woo! And so, like, yes, I have a little bit of social media, but not in all the way that you guys have it. And we know that there's just a lot out there, and we didn't have people in our lives to like speak truth and life into us about how we see ourselves, and so we wanted to kind of provide a space to share our stories and hopefully share the truth with you guys about the importance of your bodies and how the Lord has created us as women. And so I'll start with a little bit of my background. So I'm just scanning the room. I think almost everyone in here knows that I'm pregnant, right?
Congratulations.
Thank you. That's a few surprises. So literally, like, just as of recent in my pregnancy, I cracked 100 pounds. So I'm over 100 pounds now, which is like not something a lot of people cheer for, but I do, because I've always been small my whole life. Like my whole life I've been small, and I'm fortunate in that like it's just my genetics. It's just how like my mom was small, my dad was a twig, and so like I don't have an eating disorder. I never have. I'm just tiny, and I've tried like to gain weight, which to some people would be like, why would you do that? But it's because like if I get sick, like I'm out. Like I have no backups for anything, right? Like there's a level of being small that's unhealthy. And growing up, it's also hard to be this tiny, because as everyone around me in middle school and high school was like developing their bodies and going through these changes, like I really wasn't. And so then all of a sudden I get made fun of, I get left out of things, I'm not being objectified or sexualized by guys because my body isn't changing like the girls around me. And that like kind of sparked some body image issues and insecurities from a really young age in me, because I knew that I didn't look like the other ladies around me. And so when I got to high school, I was very nerdy. I was at a new school and I was trying to make friends. And by my senior year, I had realized that if I really wanted to be like in with the cool crowd, like I had to get guys' attention. And to do that, I had to have a lot of confidence and wear things that were appealing to guys and give my body to them. And so I started doing that because I was just so desperate for attention. I was so desperate for affirmation that like my body wasn't as bad as what I thought it was. And so I took that, like that was like how I went into senior year, was starting to like open myself up to guys sexually, and then I got plopped into college, where you have so much independence. Like, you have so much independence in college. And so now I had my own dorm room, I've got my own schedule, I've got my own car, like I get to make my own decisions, and I did not make good decisions. I was drinking so heavily, so many days a week, and sleeping around so much that I ended up hospitalized my freshman year of college. Like literally guys, within 2 months of me going to college, that's how many bad decisions I made in those 2 months. And the reason that I was doing all of those things was because I felt that I had more power if I could get guys to have sex with me. Right? Like I felt affirmed. Like if my body couldn't be that bad if I could get all these people to have sex with me, right? Like I couldn't be too terrible. And so I felt like I had a sense of power over myself, over my friends, the guys in my life, and I felt affirmed in my body image. And I used sex that way. And it was obviously really dangerous physically for me. But what I didn't realize at the time was that it was also so damaging to my emotional well-being. Because then I met my husband. A lot of you guys have seen my husband, Aaron. He is like the complete opposite of me growing up. Like he was raised in a solid Christian home. He had an abstinence group in high school. Not something I was part of, right? Like he was like, he's Mr. Right. Like I'm married to him. He's Mr. Right. And so I met him and he was like, hey, these are my, like this is where I'm grounded, this is where I'm rooted, like either you're on board or you're off. And I said, okay, I'm on. Like I decided to really follow Christ and like have a personal relationship with him. I decided we were absolutely waiting until marriage. I have no regrets about that decision. We worked everything out, we got married, and then you get married and you're like, oh my gosh, I get to have like good godly sex with a good godly man, right? No, like yes, you get to have sex, but I still had all of that emotional baggage attached to me. Even though I had asked the Lord for forgiveness like so many times, he probably got sick of like having me ask. Like I knew that even though my heart was cleansed, like I still carried all that stuff with me emotionally. And because I had trained my brain from a really young age that like sex had a certain role. Sex was to give me power and to affirm who I was in my body. And I like you take that and the switch doesn't just flip when you get married or you find the right guy, you decide to settle down, you decide to stop being a slut. Like it doesn't just switch. And so then I find myself in my marriage and this is my view of sex. That's not an easy place to be. That's not an easy thing to have to figure out with your spouse. And so my plea to you is not, like this isn't an abstinence talk. Coach Lauren and I are far from the people to give you guys judgment, but what decisions you make now, how you decide to treat your body and to view yourself now, whether you choose the world's perspective or God's perspective, it will impact your future. And I'm not just saying like your career or your physical body or you could get pregnant. I'm saying like it will impact your marriage. And if I had known that back then, I would not have made all the stupid decisions that I would have made. Because I have a really good man and like we struggle a lot because of the stupid decisions that I made 10 years ago that I can't change. So that's my heart in things, and Coach Lorna shared her side and kind of what she's been through as well.
Right, it's this, so preparing for this talk, really had me do some reflection on my choices back when I was your age and even younger, looking back into my childhood, you know, since becoming born again. Like Mr. Timmer mentioned that. He lived in a dark place, but once you're born again, you let that all go. But I think it's good to reflect, even though I have no attachment to who I was before becoming a Christian, God has placed me here to share it with you though. Similar story to Taylor, even though we're very much physically different looking people. Like she's small and was told she's small and was judged for being small, and I always felt like the big girl. I was always bigger than everybody, and I hated my body for a really, really long time because I viewed big as being bad. So if I did, reflect back on my childhood, I became very aware of my body and being overly critical of my body at a very young age. I know that a lot of that stems from being sexually abused at a very young age. So from there, it just kind of snowballed into more negativity in my life and how I viewed myself, and just being angry that I had big legs. That was my biggest criticism of my body, was my legs. And genetics. I mean, my mom, I watched her struggle with her weight, and so that was really impactful. So I found myself dieting at a very young age and doing things to fit a certain mold. And I told Taylor when she asked me to do this talk, when she was sharing her struggles with body image, I said, Taylor, I looked at girls like you in high school. I wanted to be small. I wanted to be, so it was interesting to have that, oh, she went through it too, just from a different way, and it wasn't just me struggling because I thought I was too big. But the interesting thing is, we both were looking for validation from boys. I wanted a boyfriend so bad in high school. That's all I could think about, was being in love and being with a boy. And the only way I thought that boys would start liking me is if they liked my body. Duh. Like I gotta look a certain way, I gotta be small, and I gotta put it out there. And so I didn't really have any boys noticing me in high school. It was more later on in my college, in my early 20s. And I took the similar path as Taylor, and then I would just freely give my body away. If a boy showed any interest in me, then I would give my body away. I would do sexual things with that person, with really no stopping to think what this is going to do to me later in my life. There are times I'm just, I didn't have God, or God has always been in my life. I just never acknowledged him. I never once thought, why are you abusing your body? You've been abused, but now you continue to abuse yourself with the choices you're making and the negative self-talk. And that didn't go away for a really long time, until I came to Christ and realized the abuse I put on myself through this negative self-talk was me criticizing God and his creation. I'm telling God that I hate you and I hate everything that you have created by talking to myself that way. So it just, I know we didn't intend for it to become a sex talk as much, but it's true. You're trying to attract boys. Let's be honest, you're trying to attract a mate. And I just didn't stop myself when a boy gave me attention and think, well, I don't have to sleep with them though, to have any kind of self-worth. And I wrapped up a lot of my self-worth in whether a guy gave me attention. And then I would take it too far, and I would have a lot of guilt. I would go, why did I do that? But then I would do it, I would repeat the cycle again. And I was just trying to fill some sort of void. Some sort of, if I had Christ, if I acknowledged Christ back then, he fills that void. I'm accepted by Christ, not by what people think of me or what mold I think other people want me to fit into, and not from a boy's attention. And so I've been married 12 years. And so when Taylor talks about, that affecting your marriage, that's so true. My husband and I were not believers, and we didn't get married under God. Christ was not at the center of our relationship, and we spent the good first part of our marriage, first 7 years of our marriage, in a dark, dark place, like close to divorce, because of that emotional baggage that he and I brought to the marriage. Gratefully, and by the grace of God, he woke us both up at the same time to take us out of this fallen state that we've been in, and we've grown together as Christians. And so I could look at the man that my husband is today, because he's been in a dark place. I mean, he could sit here and talk about his struggles with depression and alcohol. It just shows the power of Jesus. It really does. And it's never too late to pull yourself out of it. So if you think Taylor mentioned this, I'll take your words. Taylor's, or Miss Lee, yesterday was telling the girls, if you think you've already messed up, it's not too late. If you've already made some choices, or you've already had some thoughts, and you've had this negativity about yourself, it's not too late to come out of it. I didn't come to Jesus until I was like 36 years old, and I'm now 40. And I've never thought I'd be sitting here talking in this way and sharing very personal things. I never shared with any group that I had been sexually abused as a little girl, ever. And I was talking to Miss Martine and Miss Harrison this morning about it. They said, that's because you're born again. You've been cleansed, there's no shame, there's no attachment to your past life, and now God has placed you here to share that for anybody else struggling. So this has just been an incredible experience. I didn't think it would go this deep. I really didn't. I thought it would be like, let's just give a little talk about bad social media is bad, and love yourself. And you should love yourself, right? But we want Christ at the center of it. So I guess that kind of goes into the social media and the selfie-less life. Love yourself, take care of your body, but not in this narcissistic way that social media presents to you. Like the girls that are looking for likes and follows and comments, and they're only working out or presenting this healthy lifestyle for validation from the viewer, for praise, and there's no Christ at the center of it. You can still be healthy and take care of your physical body because you need this body, you need this vessel to carry you through your life here on earth, but to promote God's message and to be that shining light to other people. And when you're feeling physically ill, mentally and emotionally unwell, that's going to affect your walk with Christ in serving others, right? So that's kind of where we want you to be healthy and take care of your body, but not in this because I'm trying to get clicks or likes or views. I'm speaking your language now. Because I didn't have social media in high school. I was in the 90s. We had magazines, 17 magazine. I would flip through it to see what they were presenting to me in the magazine of what girls should look like. And I didn't fit that mold, and I really had a hard time with that. But social media takes it to a whole other level with what you're being inundated with. So yeah, Taylor, did you want to go into?
Yeah, so we're not sitting here claiming that all social media is evil, and we're not asking you to come onto the dark side and think that social media is evil, but we are asking you to consider how you view yourself and how social media impacts how you view yourself. When you take a bunch of pictures to try to find the right lighting, the right filter, and the right this and whatever, and the right people in your BeReal, like, that's self-centered. It's just the matter of fact, right? When we work out too much or care too much about what we're eating or starve ourselves or have a negative self-talk, that's self-centeredness. And that's not of the Lord, and that's not what He has for you. And so what Coach Lauren did was she put together 30 days worth of tasks that will help you go from self-centered to selfless, because that's really who we want to be in Christ, because that is who God created us to be. And so there are 10 tasks for physical, mental, emotional, and then social wellness. And so these are all things that, I mean, guys, are like very little time, no money, stretch for 10 minutes, make a workout playlist, name 3 things you are grateful for today. And they're all meant to be things that take one small piece of our day and take us back to the one who created us. Like, take us back to Jesus when we know that we live very self-centered lives. And we're not calling you guys out particularly because obviously, like, this has been our story too, right? So, Miss Morgan is gonna hand out these QR codes. So that is going to put this calendar directly on your phone. So all these little tasks are just gonna show up on your calendar every day. There will be notifications that start tomorrow and end on the last day of finals week. So this will literally get you through the last 30 days of the semester. And they're just little things to help you out, to help draw you nearer to Christ.
And the social wellness tasks on there really are to get you out of your own self, just thinking about yourself the whole time. While we want you to take care of yourself, look at it as if I take care of myself, then I'm able to reach out to other people and give way more of my energy helping someone else in need. So those social wellness tasks helps you draw other people in. And I would also encourage you to partner up or have some accountability people during this challenge, just to check in with each other, like, hey, did you do your task for the day? That always helps. We're a community here, and so you have the two of us as well to check in with throughout the 30 days, letting us know how it's going. And if you're not a social media person, still do the 30 days. Because we could all use a daily reminder of how to just kind of get the noise out and kind of focus on some nice self-care tips.
Well, so we didn't really talk about the whole social media challenge side of things
Oh yeah,
yet.
we didn't mention that.
So the name of this talk is the Selfie-less Life. So we are going to encourage you guys right now to commit to 30 days without posting on social media, because that's what these things are supposed to help us do, replace our self-centeredness. And so we are going to ask you right now if you are willing to take a 30-day hiatus from social media. Please take a picture with your friends, post on social media, be like, hey, this is my last post for 30 days, because you know who the best accountability is? Your hundreds of followers, where if you post in the next 30 days, they're gonna know, right? So think about taking a picture right now with your friends and just posting on there and being like, hey, I'm not posting on social media for 30 days.
So you're twitching.
Yeah. This group is not loving the social media challenge.
I really think about your generation, how your life has been lived through the screen. So this.
My only issue is that I post for followers, so if I don't.
You post for what?
I post, for, like, that's how you really get noticed.
No, yeah, you can go 30 days. I promise you'll still get noticed.
I've tried more shows than one.
This one. 30 days.
I'm a little on the low end.
This one I talked to.
30 days is the last day of mine.
Libby, would you share what your hesitation was? You shared it with me. Like, why do you like to take pictures? And
It's not like taking pictures of myself, really. It's just like if I'm with a friend and I'm like Snapchatting someone and I'm like, hey, look, and I take a picture and then I save it. Or like I have like a dinner coming up, a party, so I want to take pictures.
she likes the memories.
Yeah.
And this is where it's like, okay, the message here we're trying to promote is when I see girls doing this, that's self-centered. Now, events and, memories, I get, and you all have been raised on this. Your whole life has been documented.
This is something that I actually did some reading about the other day, is that like you guys have grown up where like your parents have had phones that can take pictures of you pretty much your whole life. And so
Like, you all have the pose down. You know what I mean?
But, like, you guys have
that
grown
did
up,
not
like,
exist in
your parents have thousands of digital photos of you as children. Like your parents have thousands of digital photos of you as children. So you guys have grown up with like your parents telling you that if it's something important, you have to document it. And it's not your parents' fault, right? But this is like the era that you guys have grown up in. If it's something important, if it's something memorable, you need to take a picture of it. And we're encouraging you for 30 days. Guys, this is not 30 years, right? Like, we're not saying don't make memories. We're saying that for 30 days, it doesn't need to be on your social media. If you want to take pictures with your friends, sure, go for it. Like, we're not saying don't use a camera for 30 days, but don't post it.
Oh, we thought you were saying like no photos.
Yeah.
No, but look, here's the thing, is like when you put it on social media, when you Snapchat it to a big group of people, whether you can admit it to yourself or not, you are seeking some sort of attention. Some of it's good, some of it's bad.
Or approval, or likes.
Right? And so that's where the challenge thing, like, photos are not like of the enemy, guys. For sure, not of the enemy.
Well, and I also put it back to like being in the present moment. and not living your life through your phone. Like, look around you, you know, and fight the urge to feel like you gotta document it. God's like, hey, right here, I'm here. I'm not in the phone. So, you know, again, it is very interesting, this generation, like your life is, that's what you know, is the screen and documenting every little part of your life. I told the girls yesterday, I'd have to go home and dig up a scrapbook out of my parents' closet to look at my childhood. There's really no digital. I started getting into it in college.
Cameras.
Yeah, I burned a lot of things. Flushed things down the toilet.
So it's just, we know that we come from a little bit different perspective, but I think that there's a portion of, like, we poured our hearts out to you guys today, and either you trust us or you don't. And if you don't, if you're not there yet, that's fine. There's still room for growth, and there's still, like, the Lord is gonna meet you each in your own individual ways. But if you take merit in anything that we've said today, in any of our stories, and how we've told you that we have damaged husbands that we are currently, like, wildly committed to, like, those are the people that we damaged by being self-centered, not just ourselves. And if that, like, gets you a little bit, then think about it. We know it's not an easy thing we're asking you to do, you know? Do you guys have any questions for us, like, about how we dealt with things, or how we deal with things now, or anything like that? Yeah.
Were you a Christian, like, growing up?
No, is the short answer to that. I knew of Christ, like, I had the privilege of knowing that, like, Christ existed, but I did not have a personal relationship with him or commit my life to him in any way until I was 22. So, that's where we were behind a little bit, is that, like, we didn't know how to be forgiven, we didn't know how to find value in something that wasn't ourselves or others.
Oh, Carla.
Will you share with them about the biological neurons that you talked about?
I will, let me answer Molly's question.
What are, like, things that you did to, like, help with your, like, body image issues? Like, specific, like, actions? Because, like, I love God and I love the Lord, but, like, I still struggle.
You know, exercising and eating healthy can be really good, but we can take it to an extreme. And we use it as a form of punishment and guilt. So it's like, oh, I ate bad today, so I'm now gonna work out really hard to punish myself and kind of make up for my poor choice in food. So, you know, looking at it that way, just your daily thought process on your choices, but then not beating yourself up if, you know, you quote unquote slipped. Foods to be enjoyed, and moving the body is necessary. We're built to move and to work out, but not when it takes the form of punishing or feeling guilty. So that's been my struggle for years. And I went into the fitness industry still with that mentality, thinking I could help other people and clients lose weight, but I still had this negative self-talk, body image issues. When I did come to Christ, I did realize that that was very counterintuitive and just self-destructive to criticize God's creation and what he gave me. He gave me this physical body to do a lot of good. The thoughts still come in, I still criticize myself. I'm not totally wiped clean from that. I even criticize myself in front of my husband, and he's like, I love you, and I can't stand hearing you say this stuff about your body. Like, stop already. So it affects the marriage, it affects your partner. I have come to find that I don't have to follow every thought. It's like the thoughts will come, but I don't have to follow the whole thought through and believe it. And now as a Christian, I know that's Satan. It's not me. It's something that made a home in me, but I don't have to believe what it's telling me. So that takes time, but just awareness and presence. Still take care of your body, but you're doing it in a loving way to serve Jesus. So you can serve others and be that strong person for other people. I hope that helps.
How can you, like, make, like, not focusing on that? Like, I feel like sometimes, like, you can make it an idol just eat better, if I just like don't eat today, like, but like we still love God and we want to please Him with our bodies, but it's like still like you wake up every day with the same thoughts and just processing through your mind. Like how do you just like stop thinking that, like your focus?
I would say focus on the mission, and the mission is from God. Like we are literally, our only purpose on earth is to love God and love others. That's what we're here for. Love God, love others. Like He says, love your Father with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. And our bodies are the vessels that He's given our spirit to complete His work. And this is where, like, because I'm a rational person, I like to argue with myself. And if I can come up with like a rational explanation for something, then it finally makes sense to me. And this happened to me literally within the past year, that I've always been, like Laura mentioned, her legs were like her insecurity. For me, it's always been my small chest. It's always been something where I'm like, wow, I wish I had a more voluptuous anything. And it occurred to me, stop laughing at me, or
What does that word mean?
voluptuous,
Yeah.
curvy. There's nothing about my body that is curvy. And to me, like what dawned on me, guys, is if I had bigger boobs, could I serve the Lord better? Right? Like God's given me one job. He's given me the space at school. He's given me the space at my church. He's given me a role as a sister, a wife, like soon to be a mother, right? Like, is changing my body helping me serve God? If we need to eat healthier, if we need to be more active, then yes, those things can serve God better. Me wanting bigger boobs or a slimmer waist or smaller thighs, like those things do not help us serve God more. And so that's why like I really have to focus on the mission instead of the thoughts, because there's nothing else. Like everything else in the world will tell you that you have to look different. Everything else. And I have not found a solid argument against it, other than if it doesn't help me serve the Lord, then it doesn't matter. Yeah.
So I have a friend that I'm like trying to like bring to church and stuff, but she always tells me that like she has no reason to have faith because of everything that happened to her in the past. So like for you guys personally, like how should I like tell her to come? Because she like doesn't like hate God, but she like feels like He could like never make her feel better.
Scripture is a heavy topic.
That's tough. I mean, she will, just keep putting it out there, but it's gonna be between her and God. You can't save anybody, but you just being that presence and that model, and just keep inviting her.
And let your story be His story, right? Like, if everything good that happens in your life is to the glory of God, and everything bad that happens in your life is still to the glory of God, that will have an impact. And it's not, you may never see it, but it will have an impact, and you're still playing your role, even if you don't see it, But that's a really tough situation. There are countless people who are dealing with very similar things.
Great questions. Really good.
Yes.
Two things. One is, I think we all struggle with trading the lies of Satan for the truth of God. And the truth of God is that He created us to be exactly who we are, because each of us in our own unique way can share God's love with different people because we're different. Whether it's our body type or our analytical brain or our creative brain or whatever that is. So that. Then for you, Mrs. Maynard, what did that talk look like with your boyfriend, fiance, husband about the difference in your preparation for marriage? His being abstinent and yours not being abstinent?
Honestly, I was really lucky because as soon as I met him, I knew that he was the one. Like as soon as we started our relationship, and so I was willing to be on board with whatever he was on board with. I knew that I had damaged my body, and I knew that I had damaged my mental well-being, even though it felt good at the time, even though I probably would have continued to do it, when push came to shove, like when there had to be a decision to be made, like, do I wanna be with this guy who I know is good, or do I wanna continue my bad habits? I'm still an intelligent enough human being, and we all are, to say, I choose good. But it took time and development with the Lord, and honestly me hitting a lot of low points for me to finally choose good, because I had a lot of opportunities to choose good and I didn't. So it was.
But how'd that conversation go? I mean, he knows your background.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's another thing of having a past like that, and I can attest that I own one of those too, is having that vulnerability with your soon-to-be spouse about what you've done.
And I
that
think
you
what
can't
was-
stand there and say,
Yeah.
You're it, you know?
I think what was really important for the two of us is, unlike Lauren and her husband, my husband and I started our relationship in Christ because it started in such a broken place. Like, there were many things about the start of my relationship with Aaron that were not good. They came from a very dark place. And when we started our relationship, we said, we're starting this in Christ or we're not starting it at all. And I'm very grateful for that. I didn't know what that commitment meant. Like, I didn't know what that was at the time, but I knew that that was what my next step was moving forward. And so that's what helped us have those conversations, forgive each other, set boundaries, was the fact that, like, we knew we were committing to Christ, though we were both imperfect in that.
Thank you.
All right, I think time is up. So just know, guys, that, like, we are people for you. You're not alone in whatever it is you're going through. Good days, bad days, questions, advice. Please know that you have people